So today's video is going to be a banger, but I'm a little bit sad because for the first time in almost 3 years, I won't be able to record an MLB recap, and that's because I'm in an airplane right now on my way to Colorado for the Home Run Derby. I cannot be more excited, but today's video, we're going to talk about the most disappointing players from the first half and recap that, and then tomorrow, if this video gets to 2,000 likes, we'll talk about the most surprising players. So still kind of a recap, but in a different way. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's go ahead and talk about the number 15th most disappointing players. So there's going to be 15 players in today's video and tomorrow's video. Christian Yelich. A lot of you guys might be thinking Christian Yelich hasn't been that bad, but let me explain why he makes today's list. He's a former MVP. When you have a guy that is hitting 300, 320, 330 like Christian Yelich has been over the last few seasons, to hitting 200 in 2020 and then in 2021, it's disappointing. Now, he is still getting on base at an elite clip. I think at the time of this recording, he has a 401 on base percentage, which translates into a 110-ish, 114 OPS plus, where the average is 100. So he has still been good in terms of getting on base, but the batting average has been very disappointing. And when you're already a bad defender, you kind of have to be an elite hitter to make up for it. And for right now, aside from walking and getting on base, the batting average and the power, it's severely down. While I do expect Christian Yelich to get better and better and better and have a really good second half, I think Milwaukee fans would agree with me that he has not even been the best player for the Brewers this year. I would say Omar Narvaez and Willy Adames and maybe even Luis Urias have been better than Christian Yelich. So if there are any police officers in Texas, I would recommend heading to the Rangers ballpark and making sure that you arrest David Dahl for stealing $3 million from Texas. I mean, he came into this year as a bad defender. He is never going to be a Gold Glover in center field, left field. Wherever you stick him and hide him, he is going to be bad. But then you add an almost 60 OPS plus. Again, the average OPS plus where you consider to be good is 100. So he's 40% worse than that. I mean, I'm actually rounding up. He's worse than that. David Dahl, disappointing. I don't even want to talk about him anymore. Moving on over to a player that might cause a few, I don't know, spicy comments in the comment section down below, DJ LeMahieu. But if you're a Yankees fan, I would say that you would probably agree with me because he has the lowest batting average of his career, at least since 2014. And also, his OPS plus has not been this bad since 2017. He is under 100. So technically speaking, he has been a below average hitter. And when you're 32 years old and your defense is starting to slip, which it is, we have the stats to prove it, you have to be a good hitter. And at this point, he's been decent, but he's also been disappointing. So you know how we talked about stealing money? Yeah, the next two guys that we're going to talk about, the 13th and the 12th most disappointing players, Hunter Dozier and Jackie Bradley Jr., yikes. So at the number 12 spot, we have Hunter Dozier, who has turned in a whopping -2, not a 2 WAR, not a -0.5, a -2 WAR, a 58 OPS plus, which actually might rank the worst in all of Major League Baseball. And just like David Dahl, he came into this year as a horrible defender. So all around, Hunter Dozier has been just stealing money. Now with most of these guys, I'm not trying to be too harsh, and actually I hope none of these guys are watching because I know I am being harsh, but the majority of these guys have been star players in the past, and I believe that they can come back for a strong second half. But for right now, we can't ignore it. These guys, I'm not saying they're holding their teams back, but Jackie Bradley Jr. was given a 2-year, $24 million contract by the Brewers, and for $12 million in the first half, he hasn't even been able to muster a 50 OPS plus. At the time of this recording, he has a 45 OPS plus. That is 55 points below average. Jackie Bradley Jr., yes, he is a fantastic Gold Glove winner in center field, but with the stick, he's basically useless. I feel so bad for our next guy because I thought that Dylan Bundy was going to take advantage of that 2020 breakout season, but unfortunately, it got so bad because his ERA and FIP, if you have no idea what FIP is, that is really just looking at a pitcher and seeing how good he is without his defender. So that's a pitcher limiting walks, limiting home runs, and striking guys out. Dylan Bundy, his ERA and FIP has doubled, and also he was demoted to the bullpen. I don't think it gets more disappointing than that. Moving on over to a somewhat confusing player, we have Dansby Swanson, who on the surface is having a good season with 13 home runs and 36 RBIs. If you gave those stats to a casual fan, you would think, why is he on this list? He's been pretty good, but he is on pace to strike out over 200 times, but it's not like he's Aaron Judge, where he has an OPS plus of 160, so it's okay to strike out a whole lot. His defense has slipped. He has a -4 DRS, and he has an 86 OPS plus. So the counting stats, yes, are good, but I guess if you're a Braves fan, let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think Dansby is having a good first half or not? Willie Castro, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I thought that he was gonna break out even more in 2021, but unfortunately at times, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, he looks completely lost in the infield, and they have been shuffling around like crazy in Detroit, whether it's Nico Goodrum or Zach Shore. I think Shore is kind of winning the shortstop job at the moment, but his OPS plus, talking about Willie Castro, along with the fact that his defense has slipped, his OPS plus has dropped over 70 points. Yes, it was a small sample size in 2020, but I saw a very high ceiling, and we're not even close to that right now. You guys ever seen the movie Space Jam, where the aliens come to Earth and they suck out the players from some of the best players in the NBA? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened to Gleyber Torres, because he has 6 home runs. 6 home runs in his last 116 games. His power always made up for his horrible defense, and out of nowhere, all of a sudden, he just can't hit the long ball. Now, he throws in a double every now and then, but when you have a mid-70 OPS plus, you're on the Yankees, you're supposed to be that guy. I mean, I would say Gio Urshela is a better defender at shortstop, and maybe even Gio Urshela is better than Gleyber Torres at the moment. So if you're a Yankees fan, what do you make of this rough first half and also 2020 for Gleyber Torres? Oh, this one's not going to be fun to talk about because he's such a nice guy. We've had an interview with him, so he's benefited the channel, but we have to talk about Jesus Luzardo. He has a 6.87 ERA and a 6+ FIP. Again, both of those are horrible. He's walking a ton of people. He is giving up a ton of home runs. Now, he is striking out guys like he's supposed to, but yeah, he throws hard from the left side. He does have a good mix of off-speed pitches, but for whatever reason, he's just giving up the long ball way too often, and even lefties are crushing him. So yeah, Jesus Luzardo at the number 6 spot. Alec Bohm, what the heck happened to my man? A negative 1.6 WAR to begin the season. That's because he is playing bad defense, and that might even be an understatement. His defense has been horrible. I'm hoping that in 2022, the universal DH comes back so we can spare some mercy on this kid. Maybe move him to first base or have him DH every now and then. And yes, he has been better as of late in terms of both defense and offense, but his first few weeks and first few months were so horrible. He has to make today's list as the 5th most disappointing player because he has a sub 80 OPS plus. Yeah, he's driving in runs every now and then, and he has been better as of late, but we can't ignore he might have been the worst player in baseball for the first 2 months of the season. I mean, maybe aside from Hunter Dozier and Jackie Bradley Jr. Keston Hiura is the number 4 most disappointing player, and that's because his ceiling as a prolific power hitter in terms of the middle infielders is so high that you just get excited anytime that you hear the name Keston Hiura, but he was so bad, he was sent down to AAA. Now again, just like Alec Bohm, he's been a little bit better as of late, but he's still hitting under 200. His OPS plus is hovering around 50 or 60. That is not going to get the job done. I think we all love Keston Hiura and his potential, but we can admit he's been bad. Oh, Francisco Lindor. If you didn't catch what I just said, Francisco Lindor is going to make today's list as the number 3 most disappointing player, and the reason why he's not number 1 is because he is still playing fantastic defense. He has a sub 100 OPS plus since September of 2019, so I pleaded with Mets fans to just make sure that you tempered your expectations, because he is not going to be Trevor Story or any of these guys offensively as a shortstop. Yes, he's going to steal bags. Yes, he's going to run into a ball every now and then, but I don't think that he's ever going to be a 130 OPS plus guy ever again. I haven't seen that for over a year now. So while I absolutely love Francisco Lindor, and I hope that he wins an MVP and 5 platinum gloves and eventually a World Series, as long as it's not against Cleveland, I'm hoping that Francisco Lindor bounces back. But in the first 2 months, Mets fans, they were asking me to trade back Ahmed Rosario. Yes, they wanted Ahmed on their team as opposed to Francisco Lindor. What? 13 seconds after I recorded today's video, Francisco Lindor hit a grand slam. So yes, the curse continues. If I talk negatively about a team or a player, they just get better. So Clint Frazier is going to be our number 2 pick. I almost put him at number 1, and that's because his expectations were so high after what he did in 2020. But Anthony Rendon is going to be our number 1 guy. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Clint Frazier, he has a negative 1.3 WAR. His defense, I thought it improved in 2020, but as we can see, that was a small sample size, and it has really regressed in 2021. He has a sub 80 OPS plus. I mean, he's striking out about the same rate as he was in 2019 and 2020, so I can't say that his plate discipline has completely left him, but between the bad defense and him not getting on base nearly as much as he did before, he's got to make the list. And I'm sorry to say that because he's one of my favorite players in baseball. Yes, Anthony Rendon will be the #1 player on today's list, and that really hurts me to say because at his peak, in his prime, Anthony Rendon is a top 10 player in all of baseball. But because of injuries, whether you want to blame that or it's just, I don't know what it is with Anthony Rendon. It almost looks like he is playing in slow motion. That's kind of always been his benefit, is that nothing really ever phases him. But when you're not playing that well and you're kind of lax, it just makes it seem like you don't care. I know he cares 100%, but that happened in 2020 with Francisco Lindor. You just kind of, they're always even keel, so when they're not doing well, you're looking at your TV screen like, why is Anthony Rendon looking like he doesn't care? Well, he has a 93 OPS plus, so it's not horrible, but he has the lowest batting average of his entire career. Whether that's because of a mechanical issue or injuries, Anthony Rendon, in my opinion, is one of the reasons why the Angels were maybe going to be a playoff team, and he's been extremely disappointing. All right, everyone, well, that wraps it up for today's video. I hope that you did enjoy. I try not to be too harsh on some of these guys, and I fully expect every single one of these guys 1 through 15 to bounce back in the second half, because for the most part, all of these guys have been former stars or superstars in the past few years, so they have the potential. They just have to remember that. But thank you all so much for watching. 2,000 likes and we'll come out with the most surprising players tomorrow. Stay safe, and remember, that Home Run Derby vlog, it's coming soon.